Hey everyone.
Friends. Okay, so we're back for another What We Read, this time not a Shadowhunters edition, since we're actually done with that.
Yeah, we're done with that for now until the next reread.
We had a lot of Shadowhunter
That's
feelings.
true. That's true.
Just
You'll probably
saying.
hear us like yak about it again in June when the Shadow Market book comes out.
Oh
But
my gosh, so good. Now we're going to talk about all the other things that I have been reading outside of Shadowhunters books. First, I'm going to talk about something that I reread. It's actually 2 books in a series. So I reread Caraval and Legendary by Stephanie Garber in preparation for reading the series finale by Stephanie Garber. Caraval, the series, centers around the experience of 2 sisters with this magical, like, traveling circus type event called Caraval. In the first book, Caraval, it focuses on elder sister Scarlet as she is on a mission to win the game Caraval in order to rescue her sister and to also win a wish. And it's a very interesting experience rereading this book because I remember that Scarlett's narration is very specific. She has a specific way of seeing the world and her perspective is informed by the way that she has grown up. I liked it a lot. I still think that the setup of it is very good. The idea of Caraval is very good and the way that it plays out in the story is very, very intriguing. But I have to say that I don't love it as much as the first time I read it, which is not to say that I didn't love it because I still give it 4 stars, but I just think that there was just something a little bit different for me about it, and it's probably because I read the sequel, which is Legendary. And this one focuses on younger sister Tella, and she actually gets to also play in Caraval during a special occasion Caraval that is set up in honor of the Empress Elentine's birthday. Tella is balancing both trying to win Caraval in order to achieve a goal, but also dealing with someone that she made a deal with in order to save her own mom. I just really love Tella as a character. She's spunky, she's clever, she is very determined to get what she needs / wants, and she is one of those types of characters who will make the best of a bad situation and try to just maneuver it so that it works out in her favor. I really enjoyed her story, plus Dante is in this one and I love Dante. Anyway, reading this one was still as thrilling as the first time, even though I knew what was going to happen, and so I'm glad I read both because it was great preparation for reading finale, which I'm doing very soon.
one of the books that I read is Rise of the Dragons by Angie Sage. So it's a new series. Angie Sage is the writer of the Septimus Heap series and I want to say Magic with a YK series, which I tried in the past and I didn't know that she'd written those, although the name was certainly something. So when I finished this book and I saw the credits, I was like, oh, okay, because I wasn't able to get so much into Magic and Septimus Heap either, which explains why I didn't so much get into this one too. But long story short, story about it's sort of cool how it starts with somebody here on Earth sort of taking care of her mom who's a little bit sick, and then it suddenly shuttles back and forth between that dire situation at the hospital, etc. You know, just something very mundane. And another world, another universe where there are dragons. In particular, the world has been rid of most dragons, and a dominant clan of humans who have sort of partnered or locked with dragons. That's their deal, the whole we have partnered, we have locked, we are a rider and whatever. They're not even riders, they're like partners, called the Raptors. They're the ones who are sort of in charge. They're despotic, they're evil, and they have heard that a silver dragon was out there somewhere. They try to find the silver, shenanigans ensue, 2 new characters introduced. To me, it felt as disjointed as I'm describing it, because that's exactly sort of what happens, and then it shuttles back to the whole hospital and the thing, and I get the intent, I get the thing, it just didn't work for me personally. So I would feel like if people are used to the Septimus Heap and the Magic series and you love that, it's probably more of the same. So definitely recommend for you guys. But for those of you who it didn't work for you, then maybe not so much so. I would like to know what happens next. That'd be nice. But will I be going out of my way to find out? Maybe not.
The next book I'm going to talk about is The Princess and the Fangirl by Ashley Poston, which came out at the start of April, I think April 2nd. This is a companion novel to Geekerella, and it actually has cameos from a lot of the characters from that book, but it focuses on 2 different main characters. You have Imogen, who is basically just determined to make a mark in the world, and she feels like the way that she can do so is by leading up the Save Princess Amara or Save Amara initiative, which is a petition or a movement that she started in order to ask the creators of this famous franchise, Starfield, when they do their next movie, to bring back Princess Amara, who is a very well-known and beloved character. And on the flip side, you have Jessica, who is the actress who plays Amara, and she's like done with being Amara, like she doesn't want to be Amara anymore.
Hey, that's cool.
And so these 2 actually meet, realize they sort of look alike, and so they decide to switch places, mostly because Jessica has to figure out who stole a script that was given to her, and Imogen thinks that it will be a great move for her in her Save Amara movement. And shenanigans ensue, which is unsurprising considering the contents of Geekerella. I didn't love this one as much as Geekerella. It was still very cute. The con setting is still a lot of fun, and a lot of the secondary characters are also really great. But I just felt like it took me a while before I got really interested in the story, which is the complete opposite of Geekerella, which I thought was charming from the very beginning. I would still say that you should pick it up if you're looking for like a fun, sort of lighthearted contemporary to read, especially one that includes like fandom elements in it as well, and especially if you love Geekerella. So yeah, those are my thoughts on The Princess and the Fangirl.
My next book is The Lost Frost Girl by Amy Wilson. I know, and I thought it was kind of like a mystery kind of deal, and then suddenly you come to realize that it's a Jack Frost themed kind of thing, and then Jack Frost has been interpreted across lots of YA and middle grade in so many ways.
Rise of the Guardians.
Right, Rise of the Guardians, for example, made Jack Frost like he was like a force of nature. Here, we're leaning towards Fae and some kind of amalgamated, I want to say, mythology around the Fae and the seasons and the powers that be in and around like how Mother Earth runs her shop. This is like Jack Frost's spawn, and her name is Owl, and apparently her mom had a thing with Jack Frost. The one good thing that I liked and I appreciate about this book in its attempt is that it sort of juxtaposes the childhood fairy tales that her mom read to her about that other world where Jack belongs, and the actual events of the story as she's discovering what's going on. But but for me personally, it didn't toe the line too well between that kind of old-timey tone and the super contemporary kind of, I'm a girl and I'm in school and suddenly my hands are flaking and frosting and I can make snow and my best friend's parents are going through a divorce, and also, by the way, my dad is Jack Frost. It feels that disjointed also, to me personally. Like, so I think for people who are used to this kind of storytelling, where it's super contemporary and then suddenly super old timey, and then, oh, by the way, there's like supernatural stuff going on, then this is totally the book for you. It didn't work for me. Even the way sort of the conflict was sort of built didn't really sort of pay off, because obviously people are conspiring against Jack, and he's his season is like way too like annoying now, and we gotta get some more of that seasonal time, and at the same time she's like, but I'm a girl looking for my father. It just isn't like, I'm a girl standing in front of my dad hoping that he'll claim me. I mean, that's, you know, it's Notting Hill with fairies and seasons. So not a huge fan, but I think it could work for some, so give it a shot anyway. It wasn't a terrible read. I just had to speed read through it so I knew what happened in the end.
My next book is actually a book I quite enjoyed, and that book is Love from A to Z by S.K. Ali. It has two main characters. There is Adam, who has recently been diagnosed with multiple sclerosis, but he's keeping that a secret from his family because his family has suffered enough grief because of MS because his mom died of it years ago. And then there's Zainab, who got suspended from school because she did something that provoked a teacher that already had it out for her. He's racist and he's kind of a bully, and she is actually a hijab wearing Muslim in this book, and so she gets called out a lot by this teacher, and so when she acts out, she ends up suspended. And they actually first encounter each other on a plane to Doha in Qatar.
Oh, okay.
They actually meet in Qatar because they have a mutual acquaintance. Oh, I forgot to say, Adam is actually Chinese. I think he's Chinese. He's of Asian descent, but he's also Muslim. Because of their complicated secrets, their relationship is also very complicated, and you watch it play out as the novel continues. And I have to say, I was pleasantly surprised by this one. I wasn't sure how I was gonna feel about it going in just because of the way it's told, but because I was like, this is a lot of stuff for one book to tackle. Can it be done? Can it be done in a way that I think will be like, you know, readable, but at the same time with enough depth? And the thing is, the author really succeeded in that. She had me feeling empathetic for both Adam and Zainab, for their variety of situations. She also had all of these other characters surrounding them that meant that they had relationships outside of the ones they have with each other. And I think that was also a really strong point in this story. I really like the setting too, because I don't think I've ever read anything that's set in Qatar. The nods to the culture and obviously the mention of multiple sclerosis and the symptoms, a lot of that I can't speak to because obviously I don't have MS or know anyone who has MS, and I'm also not Muslim. But it was, to me, like, it was so compulsively readable, and I just could not stop once I'd started reading it, and I definitely thought it was a really good one. I like the way it ends as well. I think that was very delightful. I'm still just like thinking about it makes you smile. So I definitely enjoyed that one. Would definitely recommend you guys check it out.
Moving on to the reads that I really liked. So this is Tentacle and Wing by Sarah Porter. As a longtime X-Men fan, there is a kind of theme here, because in this world there are children being born called chimeras, because for whatever reason, if you check their DNA, they've been for reasons unknown still, and there's like a huge study going on to this phenomenon, they have non-human DNA woven in there. So you've got a bunch of kids born with like tentacles and suckers and compound eyes and wings, and kids who undergo metamorphosis. It's just this terrible thing, and some of them are hazardous, obviously, and some of them just look hideous and deformed from a human perspective, even if underneath all of that they're still people. And so a lot of these chimes, that's their slur for these chimeras. So again, it's very, very relatable topic as far as racism and just bigotry is concerned, right? So they've got that slur in there internally to sort of kind of anchor in the real world. All of the chimes were quarantined on Long Island, I think.
Also, what is it with Long Island?
I have no idea, but it's convenient, I guess. It's isolated, it's close enough to the city, but far enough away to quarantine. It centers on a young girl named Ada who can apparently see in infrared, and her father, just because he knows that they're going to end up like taking her away and sending her to this school on Long Island and forever quarantining her there, has the capacity to see ultraviolet or infrared. So to her, even if the sky is a whirl of oranges and blues and reds and purples, her dad teaches her how to lie. So it's a story about intolerance. It's a story about a world where they just hate these kids because they look different, and a story about acceptance. And then underneath all of that, here's the science fiction aspect. The mystery unfolds of why are there chimeras? What's going on? It got really, really, really emotional at the start, like really dark and like, oh my god, this is terrible, and it's like a concentration camp, and there's so much hate on the outside. And then it got really, really weird towards the end. I'm like, wow, that's a violent shift in tone to suddenly have this element introduced into the mythos, while at the same time trying to keep that whole, but who will love each other and for who they are kind of deal, and accept each other for who they are. So I do want to know what happens next. I think there's a second book coming out, maybe somewhere soon. Maybe it's not easy. I cried a little.
No.
Because when kids are ostracized and whatever, to have adults step up and say, I don't hate you and you are worth loving, to me just hit home, because this is a book for anyone who's ever been an outcast or the weird one or the different one. This hits home. So that's the good, and then it's the good and the weird. That's really what this is.
My next book I didn't like quite as much as Macky liked his last book. It's Hearts Made for Breaking by Jen Klein. It's another like YA rom-com type story about a high school student named Lark, and she has rules for playing the high school dating game. She basically will date someone, and then she will invent some reason or sort of steer them into a position where they will break up with her, and then she'll move on. Makes it easy because you're never really going to get attached to anyone. And so her best friends, Cooper and Katie, are both concerned about this, and they challenge her to start dating someone, and either she or that person should fall in love for real before she breaks things off. And so she picks the mysterious new boy named Artie for this experiment, only to realize that she may actually be in love with him. It sounds like a really cute premise, right? And here's the thing, it is a really cute premise. And I really liked Artie, the main character's love interest, a lot, because he just felt like a real character that came off the page. Everyone else, including Lark herself, not so much. There was like a sincere lack of development. Like, for the life of me, I couldn't tell you anything about Lark other than her dating rules and the fact that she tends to put her foot in her mouth and that she works for her family's go-kart business. That's literally it, which is hard because she's the main narrator and the main character, and of course you want to like care about her and be invested. I also did not particularly like her friends. I don't think that her friendships felt like real friendships. Like, Cooper was slightly better, but Katie was like, to me, she was not a great friend. And then I don't like some of the things that happen in the book. I feel like they just happen like kind of out of nowhere and then don't get addressed very well. The entire thing just felt underdeveloped. It had its moments, like it had like good swoon-worthy like cinematic moments, but other than that, it was fine. Like nothing has compared to her debut novel Shuffle Repeat so far of the new stuff that she's released. So unfortunately, that one just wasn't for me.
Sanity and Tallulah by Molly Brooks. So Disney Hyperion was lovely enough to send us to us in a box. I'll never forget the day because it came with slime. Because why not put slime in a box? But it is a graphic novel. Beautiful kind of graphic novel. Very nice, relatable kind of art and whatever. A story about two girls on a space station where, for reasons that may be related to their most recent infraction on the rules, which is don't create bioorganic life.
Explains everything, really.
Because they needed to, and they did. They created something, an experiment called Princess Sparkle Destroyer of Worlds, is now a thing that they have to deal with, and that experiment escapes, and things go crazy on the...
That sounds like shenanigans already.
And things go crazy on the space station, and their parents are very, very high-ranking folks on the space station as well. And they're like, what are we going to do with you two kids? How is this going to be possible? And it's up to them now to sort of solve the mystery. So there's a family at the core of the story. There are two best friends at the core of the story, two best friends who are partners in crime and partners in the lab, and apparently partners in like bioengineering. And it's just, how do we deal with it? It was a super, super fun read. Very, very light, but at the same time, just, you know, fills the heart, I think, is what this is. I cannot wait for book 2. I hope they send it to us. And even if they don't, I would collect the series, because it's just, they're such compelling characters. Sanity and Tallulah are the best friends that you wish you could have had when you were young, like myself, who didn't have any best friends as a child. So much recommend. Very wow.
The last book that I'm going to talk about in this video is a book that's actually already out in the UK but has not yet come out in the US. So in the UK it's called Tilly and the Book Wanderers. In the US I think it's being renamed Pages & Co. The Book Wanderers, so sort of close in title, and this is by Anna James. So the premise of this one is very cute. It's a middle grade novel about a girl named Matilda, and she lives with her grandparents in an apartment above a bookshop that they own and run and all love. Everyone in that family is a big reader. And so Tilly has just lived with her grandparents because her mom disappeared a long, long time ago when she was very young, and she's never known her dad. The thing that happens that is the catalyst for this entire story is that Tilly one day sees very well-known literary heroines, aka Alice from Alice in Wonderland and Anne from Anne of Green Gables, wandering around their bookstore, like as actual people. And so when the truth of the magic aspect of the story is revealed to her, like a lot of things go down. And here's the thing, the premise is so cute and there are like very cute moments, but I will say that the first part of the book is like good, and then you get to the discovery part of the book, and then all of a sudden it becomes bogged down a little bit in all these explanations as to how things work, which I appreciate, obviously. It's nice to know how a world is constructed and how like the possibility of these characters coming to life outside of their pages can even exist. And I thought like the concept of it, like I've seen this done before in books, but in this one it was particularly charming, and I think it's because, you know, it's a kid who gets to interact with books in a way that any book lover would aspire to do so. And she has a best friend that ends up coming along for the ride, and like it's that part of it was very enjoyable and adorable and wonderful. I think I will be reading the next book just because I am curious to see how the rest of the story does play out, although I feel like it will be less telling and more adventuring, which is what I'm here for. I also think that if I had read this as a kid, I would have lost my mind. Like I would have just been like, sign me up, want that thing. A little middle of the road for me right now as an adult, but I actually think maybe the series will continue to get better with every single book, so we shall wait and find out.
Cool. So my last book on the pile for today would be Secrets of Topsy, The Extremely High Tide, which is basically book 2 of the Topsy series.
There's a pig.
It's a watch hog.
Oh, I'm sorry. It's
a watch hog named Earl Grey. Oh. Yeah, you bet. The reason why this is one of my favorite books so far was because we'd received Topsy in the mail. I think it was about last year, and it was yeah. You would beware the rock cats, the pier with no end, and Davy I think his name is Davy Jones, comes to Topsy. Yeah. Comes to Topsy. No, chill. Comes to Topsy, realizes that things are a little topsy-turvy.
I know.
And finds that his locker is at the bottom of the swimming pool. Now, though Topsy did revolve around its sort of little cast of characters, but it mostly centered around Davy and his kind of recovering from, you know, the loss of a parent and just trying to fit into a new town. Topsy, The Extremely High Tide, is a story about all the kids. So think Love Actually, but everybody knows each other.
Okay.
But everybody has their own little arc, so one of them wants to build a boat, the other one wants to be a diver. Earl Grey has a few moments because he feels a little bit alone, right? Because how many watch hogs are there? Right? Has he ever been in love? Maybe not. Davy is also you're gonna make a return, and one of them, it's like one of them is the class sports. No, not sports. One of them is the class journalist, right? Yeah. And discovering the mystery of why there are no more lighthouse keepers around and whatever, and all of them preparing for the extremely high tide.
Sounds like shenanigans to me.
Oh, absolutely. And so it's just a great read. It's so whimsical in its magical realism of how all of these things are possible. It almost harkens back to sort of like those kind of old Pippi Longstockings books, where there's that hint of magical realism in a small kind of town, but and it captures that modern kind of magic, which to me me is just so fun and whimsical, and for once, no dragons and witches and warlocks and demons and magic, but magical realism, and I love it so much. It's so good.
Oh,
and
that's great.
and yeah, and it's again, it's a story about like me and my friends taking on some crazy things and growing up together. So
Cool.
highly recommend to anybody, both Top Seed 1 and The Extremely High Tide book 2. So very, very fortunate and thankful again, Disney Hyperion. Thank you for sending us so much cool stuff.
That is the end of this particular What We Read video. We hope you enjoyed it. If you have read any of the books and also enjoyed them or want to talk about them,
give us a
leave
holler.
Comment. If you have any book recommendations based on the books
Also
we
give us a holler.
mentioned, definitely give us all of that in the comment section. And of course, we want to know what you guys have been reading and what you've been enjoying. And we will see you guys in our next video, which is probably going to be up next Friday.
Yes.
All right. Bye.
Bye.